Today, we acknowledge a gap, and it's a gap where maybe you've done your training, you've finished your coursework, you've maybe even handed in your assignment, yet you don't have your certificate to go out and practice. And why? Because you still have outstanding hours, a number of client hours. Rory, you can maybe explain as we go into this about the need for those client hours, what that looks like, how that can be derailed. But then more importantly, we're going to go in to discuss what can you do during that gap. And if you are still studying at the moment and think this doesn't apply to you, it's really worth having a listen to, because it's going to help you plan for when you do come to that point where you need to hand in your hours.
I was one of the only people in my cohort who went in on the last day of my course and handed in my portfolio and handed in my hours sheet. I completed my course within 2 years, and even my tutor said it was so unusual. Part of students passing here in the UK, I'm talking about the UK specifically, is they have to do a number of supervised hours. So in other words, they have to work with clients, real clients, and then they have to be supervised. And that supervision ratio is quite strict for students, and the amount of client hours they have to accrue is quite strict. And for some courses, it's 100. For some courses, it's 140. And I've heard some psychoanalytical courses can be up to 400. But what does happen when your course ends and you've only halfway through your hours because you've had people who didn't attend, or you might have been late getting a placement? One of the things that Ken and myself recognised when we talked together was that when courses end, student motivation, for most, not all, fell off a cliff, because you were accountable. When you came to college, you were accountable to your peers, and you were accountable to your tutors. The tutors would say, how's practice going? Peers would ask, how's practice going? And as you walk out the door on one sunny afternoon in June, what happens is, of course, your support system falls away. You know, you're not going back to college, you're not seeing your peers, and it can be a very lonely slog. So my observation would be that if you think this is going to happen to you, first of all, you're not on your own. This isn't unusual. A lot of people do have hours to accrue after the course is ended. So you're not on your own. That's the first thing. You're not doing anything wrong. That's quite normal. The first thing to do is to highlight that to your tutor. Say, I'm 30 hours short. What's the college or the university's policy? How long have I got to complete the course? And get it in writing. Get it in writing, because I know of some educational establishments, the tutors have said, doesn't matter, you can just finish within 3 years, because that's what the awarding body says, or how many years it is. The tutor leaves, another tutor comes in, and then their manager says, oh no, they've finished. They should have finished in a year. And it becomes a bit of a battle. Get it in writing is the first thing. How long have you got after you walk out the door for the last time to put your hours in? And then you've got yourself a document and some evidence to argue your case should things change. Secondly, and most importantly, is that you need to put yourself a support system in place. So who is your support system? I would say the best place to go for support is actually your placement. A good placement will have other students in the same position. If you do a peer supervision group at your placement, jump on it. Peer supervision is brilliant for getting that sense of being in a supportive environment, and build as many networks around you. Also speak to your supervisor. I've had this with supervisees. They've said, oh, I've not got the hours. And supervisors should provide encouragement, because anything that dilutes motivation may impact on the client. This is something that's not often thought about. If you're feeling, oh, I don't want to go on, how are you going to be when you sat in the therapy room? So you do need to build a support system. And I would say, if you're coming to the end of your course, start that thinking now. If you think your hours are going to roll over, start thinking where you can build your support system in place now. Because honestly, it's a massive drop-off. You really do need to think about what support you can put in.
The best place to find that support is on your course. Is there another peer that's also got hours to submit, or a few peers? Can you meet up once a week? Can you have discussions? I'm going to say another resource, which is completely free to use, is the Counselling Tutor Facebook group. It's a great place to say how it is for you, say what's going on for you. And if there's people going through similar situations, they might jump in on that conversation and say that they are also going through that. You may ask, is anyone else going through this? You may then from those people say, hey, are you interested in meeting up? It's a pool of counselors, psychotherapists, many students on there, and I'm sure many that have got hours to put in. But you're 100% Rory in saying, think about that now at the beginning. Think about those hours. When we go into placement and we are seeing X amount of clients per week, I put a big smile on my face and say, I'm going to make my hours easily. What I didn't take into consideration is do not attends. How many of those clients actually didn't come? And it was after a few months in placement, I realized that because of the DNAs, I was working in a GP surgery and there was quite a high incidence of DNA. So I went and found another placement. So I had 2 placements to get my hours in. And I was glad that I was thinking of that at the beginning of that journey. Rory, I did manage to get my stuff in on time, but it wasn't easy. And we need to recognize that when we're handing in those hours, they all have to be supervised as well. So that's another thing that can delay you putting your hours in, because I've done all my 100 hours, but I've still got 3 sessions that I need to have supervised by my supervisor, and she's away for the Christmas break and I'm only going to see her in January. So don't worry about it. There's certainly allowance for this with those that set the training courses. So if you look at someone like CPCAB, they've got all their policies around this. As Rory quite rightly said, find out what your learning institution policy is, get it in writing or hold it in your hand so that you can point at it and say, this is how it is. Also, one other thing, if you have submitted your assignment and all you're waiting for is to get your hours in, and you're looking for something to motivate you as you go forward, you're no longer a student. You've finished the student, you've written the assignment, you've handed it in, and you're just doing those final few hours. And in that capacity, if you wanted to, you could join the Counselling Tutor CPD library. Now, the CPD library is only for qualified practitioners. We speak all the time when in student services that we have a student library. It's very different. The student library concentrates on the learning and the theory and the skills and a smattering of CPD. But the CPD library is, I guess, the deeper level topics, the topics that you would only consider post-training, proper deep CPD. And it may be interesting to keep your interest up and to look at any specialist areas that you might like to dig into. So there's ways of staying motivated. Any last thoughts, Rory, as we close this topic?
I think it's just to stick in and dig in. It's a long road getting your hours. We see people in our Facebook group with coins or tokens. They put a token into a jar for every hour and it fills up. And I think that's a brilliant motivator. Hours on a sheet of paper can be a bit flat. There's no passion to it. But if you were to get some counters, plastic counters, and every time you had a client, you put it into a jar and you kept that on your desk or somewhere where you could see it regularly, you could see that filling up and filling up. And I think that's a real motivation just to keep you going. And eventually, as my first supervisor said, it will all be in the past, Rory. She said to me, when I was in the middle of it and it was really hard going, she said, you'll look back on this and 2 years will have gone by, they'll have flown by. You know what? She was right. I can't remember any of the struggle that I had in training, but it can be a bit difficult. So just stick with it and we'll stick with you as well. Keep listening to the podcast and just keep the faith and you'll get there. And we love to see those celebrations in the Facebook page where someone says, finally done it. Here's my cap and my gown. I'm now qualified. There's no better feeling. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this video valuable. For more free resources, have a look at our YouTube channel or visit counsellingtutor.com